Hey, you guys, Josh out here in Singapore, back on it with the Night Out podcast. Been thinking a lot about the things that I write down and what I write down, how I write them down. Obviously, we're all told the writing portion of it actually helps you put whatever the idea is back into your long-term memory rather than keep it in short-term memory, then you forget about it. So the act of writing is really, really important, but I'd forgotten how much more you could do with writing rather than just documenting things or trying to commit them to memory. Obviously, we all have apps to help us with our memory right now. We don't use our brains as much as we used to. Like, we used to be able to memorize phone numbers. We used to be able to remember people's names and faces a lot better. Now we depend on 6 degrees of separation, basically. We depend on, okay, I can't remember the name of the actor, but he was in this movie with another actor that I knew his name, so I can find out his name and then track it back through IMDb, like stuff like that. So 6 degrees of separation, we can figure out stuff, right? Using apps, we can figure out stuff. Google, we can figure out stuff. We don't have to remember anything. Honestly speaking, I should remember a lot more, but I'm not using my brain the way that I should. So writing things down, old-fashioned pen and paper, is a lot more meaningful and a lot more long-term and intentional than it is to type it out. And I didn't realize that as much. So as I mentioned before, I've been listening to The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. And I've discovered that sometimes it's really great for me to read something and highlight and make notes and everything. And sometimes it's better for me to listen and take notes. So I've been listening to it because, his voice is kind of sing-song-ish, and it's kind of pleasurable to actually listen to. So I was listening to him read his book, and there's a concept in there about basically journaling, to write down the things that have happened in your day. It's a form of reflection. And I like the way that he explained it, mostly because I didn't think about journaling that way. I've done other episodes where I talk about, I should journal, but I don't. I used to journal. I don't anymore because my mom found my journal. Like, the possibility of someone being able to invade your private thoughts because it's written down somewhere was kind of traumatic to me. So I just stopped doing it. But I also know how cathartic it can be, because sometimes you need to be able to see it in black and white. Sometimes you're in a mood and you feel like, oh my God, this relationship is terrible. You recount all the terrible things that ever happened. And then when you're missing that person, you tend to recount, oh my, but we had this picnic and we had this date and it was so beautiful, and it was so romantic, and it was so great. And you forget how often you feel bad versus how often you feel good. So journaling can actually really be a great and helpful tool for that, and as well as to process your emotions. This is why we take notes, right? We process what we're understanding right now, how it means to us, because if you were to take notes in high school and then go back and look at your notes like 10 years later, chances are you won't understand all of your notes, mostly because you don't use the same language anymore. You write it in such a way that you would remember back then. And now you've evolved, you learn more things. You don't really understand them the way you would have back then. So with all of that being said, why is it important to reflect on your day? And the way that Robin Sharma explained it was fantastic. It really made sense. It really hit home for me, and I want to share with you, because obviously the minute you learn something, you want to be able to teach it to somebody else. That's another way of committing it to long-term memory. Okay, here we go. Let me see if I don't screw this up. He mentioned that every day, at the end of the day, you should go back through what happened during the course of that same day. From morning until night, what happened? The people you met, the conversations you had, the feelings you experienced, and how did that feel? Like, what does that look like? Mostly because we are always looking for achievement. We're always looking for success at some point, right? And usually success means something associated with money, associated with title and certification. Accomplishment is different, though. It is also a form of success, but you feel like you did something more than you did before. You finished something. You completed something. You feel like you achieved something. And that takes a little bit more work. In order for you to set a benchmark, journaling can be really helpful. And I didn't think about it this way. So what he was saying is, let's say you have blank slate, you've never lived before today, you were born this morning and you were born full adult. Let's pretend, okay? Bear with me. So today is your first day as an adult. You write down the things that happened throughout the course of the day. Once you've done that, you can actually go back and look at the things that you've written down. And what he suggests is mark, or not really rank or rate, but it's like, mark down the specific events in the course of your day and mark down whether they were positive experiences or negative experiences. And then from there, you have a general idea of what kind of a day you had. And then tomorrow, you're going to try and reduce the number of negative experiences, mostly because now you're drawing your attention to it. You're becoming more aware of it. The biggest part of solving problems is to understand that there is a problem, to understand where the problem began, not the symptoms of what happened afterwards, not the aftermath, but where it began, what triggered it, what started it, right? And once you know what started it, you are aware so that the next time you encounter the same trigger, you know, you see it, you recognize it, and then suddenly you have a choice because it did not blindside you, did not come out of nowhere, you noticed. And that is the biggest piece of information that I could pass on to you because that was my epiphany aha moment. I was like, yo, oh my gosh, okay, so I teach people to be self-aware. I teach people to notice things in their life, but I forgot that tiny piece of it. I mean, I knew it, but I've forgotten to articulate it. That tiny moment, once you've recognized and understood that this particular something is a trigger, then you are on the lookout for it going forward. It's almost like if you have ever been in a fight. The first fight, it depends on how it starts, right? And maybe the other person took a swing at you first. The second fight, because you've had that first experience and it was traumatic enough for you to remember, you're going to pay attention to the other person so that you can maybe try and avoid that first swing, which usually means you're going to get hit by the second one. But you notice and you're starting to evolve, you're starting to learn. This is why when they train you on self-defense, they're going to put you through several situations where you're being attacked or pretending to be attacked, you know, grabbing from behind, grabbing from the front, all of these things so you can learn how to defend yourself, because when you see the movement come at you, you're already ready. You're taught to notice the body posture and the movements of the body, not watch the hands, watch the body, because the movement comes from the body and it extends into the arm or the leg or whichever part of their body they're throwing at you at the time. So in order for you to be able to solve a problem, you need a benchmark. You need to know what the base level is. And then once you notice that there's a fluctuation in the base level, then you start to notice more and more often. Same thing with health. And it's something that I really, really wish they had implemented a million years ago. But we should be doing regular checkups, not because we just need permission to do something. Like in the school systems in the US, you have to have a regular checkup every year to update your records and say, okay, yes, you are healthy. Okay, yes, you have had all your shots. Okay, yes, you are okay for physical activity and PE and all that stuff. You have to have it every year before you enter school again, right? Before the new school year starts. But what I wanted was for people to be able to monitor what base level is for them, which means in the beginning, you take a blood test and you check the levels of all your hormones, all of your minerals and vitamins, which ones are you low in, what's your blood pressure like, you know, all of those things, because the next year when you do it, you should be able to tell if there's been a big spike in any of those things. And then you consider those things a benchmark. You start building a history, right? A medical history. So I think that would be really, really helpful, because then you can see where things are changing. So if you suddenly have cholesterol one year, but you didn't have it the year before, you can go back and look at, all right, well, what were the major dietary changes? Did you stop exercising? Did you include something different? Like what happened, what changed? So you can start to troubleshoot. So in this same way, but for mental health, I think it's really, really important to journal. And guess what? I think I'm going to start too. I think I'm going to start at least going through my inventory of what I did that day and how I managed to get things done, because I've told you this before as well in other episodes, that there are some days where I'm like crammed for time. I don't have it to spare. And so I get everything done somehow. It's freaking miraculous. And then there are some days where, you know, it's kind of lazy, it's kind of rainy. I don't feel like doing much of anything and I'm tired. And so I'm going to sleep the day away and maybe cram in a lot of work at the last half hour. So those days exist as well. But if I were to keep a track of what's going on every day, it would mean a lot more to my goals, to my deadlines, to creating more accountability within myself without needing someone else. It's like a self-discipline thing if I could see my progress every day. It would also be encouraging because as I start to get more and more things done, as I start to set up like a schedule for myself or a system for myself, I would feel better about the things that I accomplish every day. And that adds to my self-confidence and my mental health status as well, because you need to be able to feel good about yourself. There was a quote I saw this morning and I instantly shared it because I thought it was really, really profound. It said, teach your daughters, and obviously I feel like it's for everyone, it's not just daughters, teach your daughters to see their own beauty in the absence of compliments and mirrors. And I think that's really important because that's not what people teach about self-confidence. That's not how they teach it. You shouldn't need someone to validate you in order for you to feel beautiful, because when they stop validating you or that person moves on and they've moved out of your life, suddenly you're missing something and you feel really bad about it. So when they compliment you, you should take it with a grain of salt, appreciate the compliment, everything, but keep it moving because you know your worth. Your worth does not change depending on the people that are in and out of your life. The other thing is, because of the way our minds work, is very, very easy to create body dysmorphia in the presence of a mirror, depending on how you feel about what is attractive and what is not. And that also could come from information that is coming from outside of you. So if you know that your self-confidence is there, regardless of the compliments in your life, the likes on your Instagram, or what your mirror is telling you, or how you feel about yourself when you see your mirror, then you know that that is real, pure self-confidence that no one can take away from you. And part of that is actually building it by taking care of your mental health, by feeling like you accomplished something every day, feeling like you contributed, that you were able to find things that made you happy. You did more of the things that make you happy. Because when you feel like you're not denying yourself, you feel pretty good about yourself too, right? So, with all of that being said, I hope you understand the underlying message. I didn't realize how powerful it was to write things down pen and paper. Yeah, I love to type things out. I can refer back to it on my phone as long as I keep my phone charged. But it also means that I'm not really using my subconscious as much or my long-term memory as much. I'm not using my brain the way I could be. So when I take inventory of my day, I set a benchmark. Okay, this was baseline for today, and tomorrow let's see if I can meet or exceed that same baseline. So if the majority of my experiences were good, great. If there are a couple pieces in that weren't so great, I get a chance to go back and see what was not so great about them. What made them not great? How could I turn that same situation into a positive one so that the next time I encounter whatever the trigger was that made it negative, that I could maybe prevent or defend myself against it and turn that same experience into a positive one. Because when it's more positive on my side, everybody benefits, right? Energy is contagious. So this is what I'm on about. I hope it makes sense. You got any questions, drop them in the comments below. I do want to talk to you guys. If you want more specific answers, please do not hesitate to contact me, DM me, let's have a conversation, and let's see where we can actually help each other, because my experience is meant for me to be able to share so that other people can learn from my experience instead of having to deal with it on their own or live through it on their own. Okay? So with that being said, have a wonderful day, and I will catch you again soon.